Alright, so this is the first video about this car. And the first video on the channel. It's Tui's Garage. It's a nickname I've had most of my life. And seemed pretty cool for the YouTube channel. But really the whole channel is about working on cars and this garage for now. This is a normal 2-car garage, just like everybody else has in their house. Sometimes that's not so convenient, but it will get the job done. I'm going to be laying around on my back quite a bit. Some notes about the video that's coming is not the greatest camera when I started videoing this, and for some period that there just wasn't a great camera to work with. I have improved on that as things went along, but it will be a few episodes or videos before you'll see better cameras. Maybe I do a better job of presenting, but I doubt it. You just kind of get what you get. And you know, as I go along, I will share some other things like the car that's in the intro. That is my car, the actual car that I'm trying to get back in my garage instead of this. But hopefully you dig it, and there's going to be a lot of work on this car here. So there we go. All right, do it again. So, the real story on this car. I've been kind of looking for something that I could throw a little money into, get it running, turn it and sell it pretty quick was the idea. That kind of deteriorated pretty quick once I got it home, because really if this car had been a slant 6 basic old Chrysler A-body, I wouldn't have bought it. The fact that it was a 340 car, it had a 8 3/4 rear end under it. The interior is in really good shape for the age, and ultimately for what I was paying for the car, I knew it had at least what I was paying for it in parts, so I wasn't going to lose my money. And my thought was, well, I could just part it out if it's not something that I can get going and turn pretty quick. But as I discovered, it had a lot of hidden stuff. Fixed, and it's going to take a lot of time and money, and then once you get into it at a certain point, you're just kind of, I mean, you can't walk away or you lose everything you put in it. So just it's turned out to be more than I expected. It is going to be a cool car when it's done. Ultimately, I'm not keeping the car. I will drive it around some, get it broke in, all that stuff before I sell it probably. Maybe go do some cars and coffees or something, because my kids seem to like them. It's about the only thing they like with cars. But it just turned out to be a lot more than I bargained for, and ultimately I had a certain amount of money. I couldn't take that certain amount of money and throw it at my car and make much damage in what needs to be done to that. So I thought, well, I'll buy this car, get it running, turn it, flip it, have more money to throw at my car. Ultimately, that's still the plan. It's just the quick flip thing, not so much. That went out the window pretty much once I looked in the number 2 cylinder and saw the horror show that was. And you know, once I pull the transmission pan, I'm already this far into it. Just keep on keeping on, because I need to sell it for as much as I can, and the best way to do that is to make sure this car is very mechanically sound, and then I'm still going to end up doing more body work than I wanted to do. So it is the gift that keeps on giving, and that's pretty much the story of the car. I mean, it's a cool old 73 Dart Sport, which is not it was before 73. The Dart Sport was a Demon, a Dodge Demon, and then it became Dart Sport. They changed the front end, did not make it better looking with that beak thing, but that's pretty much the story of the car. And you know, you're going to watch what happens from the time I drug it onto a trailer and drug it into my garage with a winch, because it was not even really pushable or steerable. But there's pretty much no part of the car that's not going to get touched. And I was not looking for a full resto. I'm not even qualified to do one. So just know sometimes what you think you're getting into and what you're actually getting into are not the same thing. That's the truth of it. And that's pretty much the story of this whole car. Right. So we got it home. While we were out where we picked the vehicle up from, did try and change the lock cylinder there so that we could try and steer the vehicle onto the trailer. Ended up not having all the tools necessary to do it, and I guess it wouldn't have made much difference anyways, as the chassis was kind of collapsed on the front and it wouldn't have steered anyway. So we did end up dragging it around with a chain and a tractor, and then just pushing it around till we got it on the trailer finally. I didn't really show detail on when we were putting it on the trailer, but it has a broken torsion bar, so we put a piece of wood up underneath the control arm, between the control arm and the frame, to keep it up off the ground. While it was on the trailer, the wood got smashed, but it was pretty long drive, so that's not a big surprise. It has some exhaust issues, as you can see. It's got some a little rust here and there. Well, a lot of rust, but that's about all I'm going to do is get it home today. I did pull what's left of the vinyl top off. That has caused a big rust problem, which I'll detail when I go to fix that. But it's going to have a lot of patch work. The car probably wouldn't have been a salvage deal if it weren't for the fact that it's a 61,000 mile one owner 340 with the 727 transmission. It does have an 8 3/4 rear end, which in an A body they're hard to find, and the interior is exceptional, except for that split in the seat. But console shift, dash is in great condition. Seats are actually still soft, they're not crunchy. But tomorrow I will work on getting the ignition lock cylinder replaced, because the car came without any keys. So I'll get the lock cylinder in it so that I can steer it. I'll get another block up there under the torsion bar, and then I'm going to start trying to get spark and spray down the cylinders with some either transmission fluid or WD-40, something to get them kind of broke loose. I did turn the motor over prior to buying the car, but that's where we're going to leave off on this one, and it's going to be quite the project. Just to get this car in the garage, I have to finish putting a tub in my my car, and this car is just going to be something to save and get it on the road and send it off to whoever ends up buying it. But it's a cool car. 340 4-speed or 340 automatic. They're pretty rare. So I got this car home yesterday. I need to get the car running, and I need to get the front end back up off the ground. It's got a broken torsion bar. But first, we're going to get the hood on the car correctly so I can just pop the hood doors on it instead of taking the hood off. They've got the hinges held down with wire on both sides. I'm not 100% sure why. But once the hinges are up, the hood should bolt on and open and close like normal. The strap is just holding back. The trailer is over here. The car's got quite a bit of work to do. But then after that, the first thing is going to be changing the ignition lock cylinder. Because the car came with no keys, so it can't steer. Which is why we had to use a tractor to drag this car around yesterday. So I'll get started, and first thing I'm going to get is strap off, get the hood popped and out of the way, see if I can get these hinges lifted up where they're supposed to be. I did discover the reason the hood was tied down the way it was, or the reason the hinges were tied down the way they were, is because the driver's side hinge was completely frozen in the up position. So once I put the hood on, I would have either bent it in half trying to shut it, or the hinge would have had to break. But there was no way the hood was going to shut. Probably why it has so few signs of mice inside of it, but it's really strong and stinky. Got a creature living under there.
Right here. I have to go get something to shoot him with. Not sure where he went now. Maybe he's dead. I don't know. Probably not. Okay. We're going to cut these wires that are holding these hinge springs. It looks like it's going to be sporty.
Just note the driver's hinge spring is actually frozen in the up position, and they just somehow forced it down, bending the metal, and then tied it with what is a chassis grounding strap. During this period right here is when I discovered that the right or number 2 cylinder was in really bad shape. I pulled the plugs and looked down them with a bore scope, and that whole thing either didn't get caught on video, because a friend did pull up in a vehicle while I was doing that, and I'm not sure if I stopped the recording, and then once I saw the damage in that cylinder, I really had the thought that maybe I was just going to have to park this thing.
I've got to replace this lock cylinder before I can move the car from the trailer into the house. I don't know if I've got enough daylight to get it done today, but I'm at least going to get it started, get it torn down. Luckily it's an aftermarket steering wheel setup, so it comes off a lot easier than the old factory one that was kind of pressed on. Tires flat and the door hits the fender.
I ended up just taking wire cutters and cutting the turn signal cam out of there. It sure made the process a lot easier, and I was starting to get kind of fed up with it, just because I did not have the steering wheel spring compressor. But I am going to end up soldering that thing back in there. I'm just going to make the wires a bit longer so that it would have the ability to come in and go back, or to go back in without too much trouble. and without having to take it fully apart again.
Camera back up. After giving the old turn signal can a snip, I was able to get it out without taking this whole column apart. And I used to do solder repair on the B-1 bomber in the military. I imagine I can solder this. And I'll actually solder them long enough that the turn signal cam will come out. And then I'll just tuck it right back up in here. And I'll do it where the column will come apart without taking the whole thing apart. Turn signal cam actually looks good, so I didn't really want to do that, but I live in a neighborhood that's got a HOA, and I don't want to get hassled about working on a car out here, and I need to get this car moved tomorrow, because I'm sure somebody's already complaining. Luckily I'm at the end of the neighborhood, so not a whole lot of people see it, and I don't usually cause trouble, so maybe they've let me slide. You know, the HOA police come through here. I'm sure I'll get a notification about it. So the duster's going to move tomorrow. That's why I'm kind of doing this as late as I am, because I spent the afternoon bolting a winch to my garage floor, because this car is not going to run. After looking at the number 2 cylinder with the bore scope, it's not going to start. I think I'd be lucky to get it to make a revolution. You know, I could be wrong, but initially when I found the condition that the motor was in, I thought I was going to go ahead and just part this thing out. But it is a 340 original transmission engine car, and there's just not a whole lot of these guys out there. And while I'm not a huge resto guy, I'd rather get it to a good starting point for someone and put it back out in the world and part it out. Trying to move it. As you can see, it's kind of getting dark outside. It still looks pretty bright on the camera, but it's getting fairly dark. Like I said, I spent most of the day putting a winch in the garage floor, so my driveway has a bit of an incline, so pushing it up unassisted was not really a plan, because I thought the car was going to be in a condition where I could get it to start, at least to drive into the garage, even if I had to do some tune-up work after that. But that did not happen to be the case. So it is what it is. The biggest obstacle of driving the car so far is the it was incapable of steering itself because it came with no keys. I still have a big surprise when I don't know what's going to be in the trunk, so that'll be pretty interesting. No keys for the trunk either. But I'm going to pop the back seat out, jump in there with a screwdriver and pop the trunk on the inside. was able to see that there was some rust back there. It doesn't. I mean, trunk rusting easy, but it's pretty common. Tomorrow I'll get in the garage where I can do some work on it. It's got a bunch of heat bugs, but you know, and mosquitoes are eating me alive. But I'm gonna do it here. I'll clean up this mess and then I'll record some more when we get the old dart moved inside the house.